So MAGA land is having a hard time, coming to terms with the fact that their Lord and Savior is actually the molester in chief. I know it's tough. They're having a hard time dealing with the fact that he's totally the molester in chief. Dan Bongino, one of Trump's most psychotic stooges, by the way, who has a whole podcast where he rants and raves about Democrats this, Democrats that, he was hired to be the deputy FBI director. And this individual in particular, I can almost just tell by looking at him and listening to the stuff he said, he was totally convinced once he got into office, in no way, shape, or form would Donald Trump's name ever be on that list. And there's no way the list isn't coming out. And I just know for a fact, it's totally just gotta 100% be full of Democrats like Biden and Obama and Pelosi and AOC and Frost. And it just has to be a Democrat demonic, necromancy, pedo sex ring. Gotta be. Of course, he was wrong. Donald Trump has zero interest in even talking about the Epstein files anymore. We all saw the clip. It's undeniable. This man is guilty. Apparently, Dan Bongino is now thinking about resigning from being the deputy FBI director as a result of the Epstein files fallout, sources say. So Dan Bongino here is apparently thinking about leaving, due to reports from credible sources. Let's read the article. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino has told people he is considering resigning amid a major clash between the FBI and Justice Department over the continued fallout from the release of the Jeffrey Epstein memo. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN. This comes after a heated confrontation with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of the case earlier this week. The infighting over the case came to a head during a Wednesday meeting, which included Bongino, Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, the sources said. Bongino and Patel were confronted about whether they were behind a story that said the FBI wanted more information released, but was ultimately stymied by the Department of Justice, they said. So, understand this, Donald Trump's lowly, meat-riding, cocksucking henchmen, they're not worried about the Epstein files not coming out. They're not worried about the lie. They're worried about the FBI actually possibly telling the truth. They're worried about Patel and Bongino coming to the media on the side and saying, we have the files, but they won't let us release it. Bongino and Wiles are like, who the fuck said that? Who's telling the public the truth? Who's telling the public that that we are in possession of the truth but will not relinquish it? Which one of you said that? Which one of you came out and said that? Tell us now. Just to give you an idea of what's going on in Trump land, they're not worried about us having the files. They're worried about who is making it so clear that they're hiding the files. Now, the problem is we know they're hiding the files. We know. Everyone knows they're hiding the files. Now, us on the left, we know the chief reason why they're hiding the files. MAGA's not hiding the files for the sake of preventing all of these horrible people from being exposed. Oh, no. They're hiding the files to prevent their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, from being exposed. They're doing this to protect their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. That's all any of this is about. It's about protecting him. That's the reason why the files are never going to come out. And think about the lead up to this. Trump, in the lead up to the election, sat there and said, I don't know if I'll release the files because there's so many lies in that, so much made up stories. You can't believe all of it you hear about it, Totally the words of a man who's not involved, right? Trump wins and he releases like the Kids Bop Epstein files. Like, he releases the files with nothing in it. You're just like, what the fuck? You're reading the files and there's just nothing in there. He took what Biden released, X'd out even more of it and said, here, damn, we're tired. Stop asking me. So he releases a completely botched Epstein file that we already had. Totally not the behavior of a man who's terrified of being implicated at all. I know it took every fiber of his being to get that one done. I know he was like looking at anything starting with a D or a T in there. Whew, he was just losing his fucking mind. Then You speed up to Elon Musk and Trump's fallout, where Elon Musk declares and decrees that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Then you move on to today, recent times, the last week or so, where Trump's FBI has now declared that there are no Epstein files at all. There is no client list. Now, what's different about the regime from the administration? When Biden was in office, the files didn't come out, and we knew why. Because there were people involved on both sides from other countries as well who they did not want to expose, because this conspiracy is vast and it's expansive and it goes beyond any of which we can comprehend. It is insanely vast. It's huge. Of course, the Democratic Party and Biden's administration was never going to release the files, in part because people involved in that camp probably were involved with Epstein. So we knew there would be no way they could release it without, exposing everyone. They couldn't just release Trump's information, because Trump would just come out and say, well, I know about this person, and it would just turn into a Mexican standoff, except bullets would actually be flying. Trump's regime comes in, and instead of information coming out, what do we get instead? We get lies. See, with the Biden administration, we got the same old cover-up. We got the same old, well, we all know about this, but we're just not going to talk about it type shit, which is crazy. Unacceptable, by the way. Absolutely unacceptable. But it goes to show how extensive the crimes are, how expansive this criminal empire, this enterprise, this culture that seems to exist amongst the ultra rich, amongst the ultra wealthy. It just goes to show how bad this actually is. Trump's regime actually comes out and says everything you thought was true is actually false. Epstein was actually solo dolo, and there is no Epstein client list. There are no files. There are no videos. Kash Patel on Joe Rogan's podcast was kind of softening the blow for what was to come. Don't you remember what he said on the show? He said, if I had the footage, if I had this, if I had that, don't you think I'd show you? I'm not saying this because I think Kash would show us. I'm saying this because Kash Patel was trying to prepare the American public for what was to come. The inevitable statement that there are no Epstein files, fucking lie. But that's what Kash Patel was trying to lay the foundation. He was trying to lay the foundation for the lie, the inevitable lie, the lie we all knew was eventually going to surface, that there was no Epstein file, there is no client list, he totally killed himself, and there's nothing to see here. Shut up about Epstein. This is all the behavior of a man who is guilty. When asked about it, instead of saying, we'll totally release it, blah, 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 he says, there's a lot of lies in the Epstein files, which there are not. There aren't people just coming out saying shit, okay? All the coverage on this has been legitimate, professional, and real. Trump tries to muddy the water by claiming you can't believe what they say about the Epstein files, just muddying the water and trying to soften the blow for his eventual fucking lie. We speed up to everything that's happened up to this point. Donald Trump is absolutely afraid of the truth coming to light. What was his response when someone asked him about the Epstein files in the White House? He sat there and said, don't you see what's going on with Iran? Don't you see what's going on in Texas? How dare you ask me about Epstein? He's angry about being asked about Epstein because he's on the fucking list. You do realize this didn't happen to Biden, not because Biden did the moral thing, but because Biden simply drew the line at where the line was. We're all rich and powerful. We all know who's involved in this. Pulling the trigger would take all of us down. We're just going to leave this alone. Trump goes a step further to secure his own ass and just says, it didn't even happen, and everything you think was true was a lie. Shut up. I don't want to hear about this anymore. Go away. Trump takes it to a whole new level of fraud. This is the behavior of a guilty man. Dan Bongino obviously went into, because he's not some innocent soul with a good heart who can't believe how bad. No, he is going in there realizing it's not a game. It's not some Democrat Party takedown. It's not some, oh my God, look at Biden. No, he probably came to find out the boss himself is implicated. A lot of other people are implicated. It's never coming out, and your job is to shut the fuck up. See, the problem is, Donald Trump could have done what the Biden administration did, which is not release the files, which was the immoral and wrong thing to do. he decides for his own, I guess, protection of reputation to just come out and actually declare the entire Epstein story as you know it to be false, which was the opposite of what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino actually wanted to be reflected on them. Because understand, this looks crazy for them as well. They thought they were going to come in and be truth tellers and truth seekers, and they were going to be a part of the coolest administration. No, your job is actually to clean up the Epstein mess. Your job is to bear the brunt of being the Epstein cleanup crew. And if anything goes wrong, Donald Trump can just blame you. Donald Trump, you realize Donald Trump can blame these three. He can blame Bondi, he can blame Bongino, he can blame Patel, and actually recently, Megyn Kelly came out and called for the firing of at least one of the three, despite the fact that they all worship and answer to one man, Trump. You think Pam Bondi's stopping the release of the files behind Trump's back? That outburst Trump had, that wasn't a mistake. That wasn't some misrepresentation of how he feels. That wasn't some, oh man, you caught Trump in a... No, that nigga really meant that shit. He said, stop asking me about Epstein. Don't you see all the distractions I've been trying to create this whole time? Stop asking me about this incredibly pressing issue. Now, stand back and stand by while I bring up Biden tripping down the stairs or some shit. Shit that happened years ago. Stand back and stand by when I mention Obama saying something mean to me. All of Donald Trump's woes from like a gazillion years ago are very important, very important, very, immediate. You need to know about it right now. The Epstein files, this nigga actually thinks in his head the Epstein files are of zero importance anymore. When asked about the files, he sits there and says, why are you still asking me about this? That's not the behavior of a man who's not involved. That's the behavior of a man who is involved and wants you to leave the subject alone. So, see, this is the problem. It's like that Bible verse. I bring it up all the time. What is it for a man to gain the world but to lose his soul? What's the point of being Donald Trump's stooge if you become the Epstein cleanup crew? My God, so fucking stupid. What an idiot. Why would you? And this is what happens to every single person who works with Trump. They fucking crash. Dude, almost everyone from Trump's last team is gone. Barr, Pence, Hicks, you name it, Cohn, all of them gone. They're all gone. How many bodies have to pile up before you realize you're stepping into an active war zone? Seriously. Trump running around the whole war zone, invisible, untouchable. He's the last man. Everyone else on his team is dead. And you sitting there, you don't see the clear problem? Even the richest man in the world couldn't touch Trump without going down. Musk eventually got burned. Musk eventually crashed. Now Musk and Trump are beefing and Musk declares that Trump's in the files. These people are not smart people. Everyone who works with this dickhead always falls. And you can't tell these niggas nothing. So Dan Bongino went in there, bro. He went in there hoping he could just smear the Democratic Party with pedo accusations, and it didn't work. He found out his boss was a fraud, a liar, and probably is in the files, and now he's having a hard time coming to terms with it. Now we're going to see if he actually has any sort of integrity. Kash Patel does not. Kash Patel has known that his job is to cover up the Epstein shit. He's been trying to cover it up since Joe Rogan. Since his Joe Rogan episode, he's been fucking lying, okay? So he will never be able to redeem himself after this. Bongino is now in a position where he maybe might be able to say, hey, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I'm out. See you later. We'll see. But the reality is Bongino went into this hoping the Epstein shit would be something he could use against his political opponents. That's all this Epstein shit is for to these people. It's not about exposing actual predators. It's about trying to smear the Democratic Party. Why do you think in the wake of all of this, they're still only screaming about Mossad and the establishment in the deep state? All the pictures and videos of Trump and Epstein, and they're still scared of that one final reality. We can go, bro, there's no denying the Epstein-Mossad connection. There's no denying the Epstein connection to, everybody, all the rich and ultra wealthy and ultra powerful. There's no denying the mutually assured destructive nature of the files. There's no denying the intelligence agency connections of Epstein. The one final piece they seem to be incapable of accepting is your Lord and Savior is in the fucking files. The sooner this cult can accept that, the sooner it can all be solved. But the reality is, the reason why you can rest assured, knowing they don't care about the victims, is because these people are incapable of accepting the one final piece of reality that stares all of us clearly in the face. Donald Trump is in the fucking Epstein files. That's the reality that they're all desperately Usain Bolt sprinting away from. Dan Bongino's not conflicted because of his morals. He's conflicted because now he's trapped in a situation that makes him look crazy. He can choose power, or he can choose what's left of his honor and his integrity. Most of the people in MAGA have chosen power. Tulsi, RFK, Cash, the list goes on and on and on. We'll see what Bongino does, but understand and realize his conflicting emotions aren't coming from a place of morality and honor and integrity and goodness. It's coming from a place of opportunistic, calculated, just absolute spite. And now he's finding out he won't be able to utilize it against the Democrats. And now he's trying to figure out, do I keep my power and align with Trump knowing what he's involved in and what he's covering up? Or do I walk away from this understanding and realizing I was wrong about everything? We'll see.